Yay, Josh.
Alright, so, story time, y'all.
Yeah.
Last month we left our heroes, Marmalade Princess and Peanut Butter Prince, heading into the forest to talk to Boysenberry Bear, seeking wisdom about where Marmalade Prince's jellyfish family and Peanut Butter Prince's peanut butter nuts have gone. So she's gonna give them wisdom by telling them a story.
Alright.
Yeah. Alright. Okay.
First, let's make an announcement.
Alright, so I'm just skipping a few verses, jumping right in. Okay, here it is. Marmalade Princess talking. My jellyfish fam has disappeared, and the princess stock room is totally clear. Please, Berry Bear, we want to hear. Can you tell us what happened to what we hold dear? Berry Bear rubbed her back and let her mind sail. She met their eyes and began her tale. Past the mountain where the Wizenmatish lives, where he does his magic and giggles half fibs, there stands a kingdom full of toasty folks, and they're ruled by a duke who tells no jokes. But once he was a soft, loving creature, before metal and fire became his teacher. In the beginning, grain and yeast were wild. Eventually they settled in one place, and bread was their child. Bread was soft and flexible and mingled with the others. Bread romped in the forest, but was tamer than his leafy brothers. One day Bread decided to be brave, to prove to his friends he didn't need to be saved. Well, he jumped from the tallest limb, a first tree, was lifted on a wind coming in from the sea. Exhilarated, he ascended higher up from the ground. Those of us in the forest didn't hear him make a sound. The winds changed course, because that's what they do, and Bread was swept right along too. He sailed through a cloud over the forest's crest. He sailed clear out of the wilderness. He was blown past the sun and rainbow scents to a spiraling cloud that was dark and dense. When a white-hot flash of lightning darted, then the crash of heavens and a storm had started. Bread was sucked into the blustering cloud, and from there lost all clue of what was around. He was thrown and tugged by the force of the storm, and in the center of the cloud, he was lightning torn. His halves fell limp from the sky. He had a vague and terrible feeling that he might die. Without anyone knowing what he'd done, that he'd flown through the sky above everyone. But then with the softest whispering flute, his pieces landed in a pool in a tangle of gloop. He tried to move himself, but his halves were too soggy. He cursed his shape in his soft bread body. The next morning, as the earth slowly spun, turned and turned to reveal the sun, Bread's friends went looking in concern. They looked up every tree and under every fern, but they couldn't find Bread anyplace. So they went back home and hoped Bread was safe. Well, Bread was still stuck in the gloop when he heard his friends shouting and giving a hoot. It seemed to him that they were playing, like they didn't care that he was fading. In that moment, he swore to himself that if he lived, he'd put love on the shelf and never, ever depend on anyone, that his time of weakness was forever done. The next day passed, and Bread was getting stale. As his body and his heart hardened in the breeze, the gloop dried out too, and its hold began to ease. In the late afternoon, Bread shook himself free and dragged himself over to some trees. The light of the sun had started to dim. Bread climbed up a tree and sat on a limb. The wind picked up as night came on, and Bread began to shiver and to cringe when he saw some light just over the ridge. He stumbled up to the top of the slope. Out there in his eyes he saw some hope, for down in the valley there were many a light. Bread thought, if I can get down there, I'll be all right. He managed his way down into the town, and there he slipped under a door, lay panting and exhausted on a cold tile floor. Although this place was strange and new, Somehow Bread knew just what to do. He hobbled along the floor and up some shelves, ignored 2 or 3 sock-stealing elves. But something in their direction caught his eye, something warm that made his ambitions fly. He limped over to this glorious machine, something that he'd never seen. He climbed to the top and then peered down into a slit. He saw fire-red coils and just knew he would fit. He jumped right in and felt the warm rush of life, hot and sharp, just like a knife. He felt refreshed and different too. He was still the same, but somehow new. And just then the machine popped him out. He got down on the counter and looked about. His body was crisp and brown all over. He could feel his strength, but not the chip on his shoulder. He started to walk and test his body some. He looked behind and saw a trail of breadcrumbs. Each step he took caused his crispy form to flake, and he thought that maybe he'd made a mistake. He shouted to no one, "Will I ever change my vulnerable state?" And as he was shouting about his body now too hard, he took a step and slipped on a playing card. He went sliding past some crackers Graham, and then tumbled into a bowl of jam. The sticky substance seemed made for his crispy form. He stepped back out on the counter and was no longer forlorn. His transformation was complete. His crispy body now had a protective layer. He thought of his friends who would have let him die, and in the shadow of night whispered a dark prayer. Yeah.